Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait.
It's game day. It's not no regular Wednesday.
Welcome to Take the Bait, a sports talk show where two sports nuts debate topics, past and present, that many of us have thought about, but now Ben Shoulders, along with myself, Marcus Wilson, have a platform for us to discuss these topics together. Of course, we'd like for you to like, comment, and share our shows, but also please interact with us by sending us topics that you, the listener, would like to hear us discuss, either in the comments below on YouTube or on any of our Take the Bait social media platforms. We are now on Facebook, TikTok, IG, and X, or Twitter, whatever you call it. Just search up Take the Bait Show. We'll pop up, and we look forward to seeing you follow us there. Our first topic today is one that I know that Ben is really excited to talk about. I love college football, and we're going to dive right in. Who is the best team in college football today? Ben, I'm going to let you get us started off.
Indiana, oh Indiana, Indiana, we're off for you. That's right, folks. It's the Indiana Hoosiers as my pick as the number one team in college football right now. They are currently ranked number 2 in the coaches poll, number 2 in the AP poll, with 6 first-place receiving votes, 3 more than they got last week, Marcus. It gets better, though. CBS Sports Power Rankings ranks them number 1, and Kirk Herbstreit, Marcus, the one and only Kirk Herbstreit, ranks them numero uno. But why, folks? Why do I have them number 1? I'll tell you why. There are only 6 remaining undefeated teams in the country right now, and IU is 1 at 7-0. They're also the only team to beat 2 top 10 teams already this season. They played Illinois. They were ranked number 9 at the time, and they beat them 63-10 in Bloomington. They annihilated them. Then they go to Oregon, who was ranked number 3 at the time, who had the nation's longest home winning streak. They hadn't lost there since 2022 and was undefeated in the Big Ten since joining the Big Ten. IU beat them 30-20 by double figures. So let's break their team down, Marcus, starting on the defense. Their front 7 has been dominant all year, led by star linebacker Aiden Fisher, who won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week 2 weeks ago. Also, Isaiah Bones Jones leads them in sacks this year for IU. In the secondary, D'Angelo Pons, IU's head coach, calls their best player. On the offensive side, this team can run, Marcus. They've averaged over 100 yards rushing every game, all 7 games this year, and their first 3 games against non-conference opponents, over 300 yards rushing. But it gets better. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. Step further. Here we go. The wide receiver duo on IU, the best wide receiver duo in the country. Omar Cooper Jr., OCJ, averaging 83 yards receiving this year and 7 touchdowns, 1 per game. And Elijah Surratt, who was first team All Big Ten last year and is back, has over 600 yards receiving this year, 16 yards per reception, and has 9 touchdowns already this year. Also, I'm going to say this. Fernando Mendoza, or as IU fans call him, Fernando Heisman-Doza, is the best quarterback in the country. He's averaging over 250 yards per game, has thrown 21 touchdowns already this game. Do the math, that's 3 per game, and only 2 interceptions this year. He's 6'5", 230 pounds. He's big, he's strong, he has a cannon, he can move in the pocket, and he can run. Last but not least, Marcus, head coach Curt Cignetti, the best coach in the country. Just signed a $93 million 8-year deal extension. He's 18-2 since arriving in Indiana. And get this, going into the Oregon game, they were 0-46 all time. 0-46 versus top 5 teams on the road, and 1-152. 1-152 versus top 5 teams home or away. Their only top 5 win, 1967. So yes, folks, it's Hoosier Nation, my alma mater, IU Hoosiers, the number 1 team in the land.
Fair. You know what? I'm a Hoosier, not an Indiana Hoosier. I'm from South Bend, Indiana, so I am from the Hoosier State, loving the momentum. What they did to Illinois was just flat out impressive. Me, annihilated them. Going to Oregon, winning at Oregon is something that people just don't do. They just don't do that. You don't go to Oregon and get wins. However, my man, I got to change up my background to let the people know that I'm about to disagree. It pains me to say that the Ohio State Buckeyes is still the number one team in the country. They're ranked number one for a reason. And when I look at them and I look at the stats, even though I don't necessarily like them, the facts don't lie. Let me go back to even the last year. Last year they were 14-2. As we know, they went to Oregon and lost. Very close game. And then they lost that game to Michigan at the end of the year. Since then, it's been utter dominance. They beat Tennessee 42-17. They beat Oregon, avenged that loss 41-21. Wasn't even close. Beat Texas 28-14, and then beat my Notre Dame Fighting Irish 34-23. All double-digit victories, all top 10 programs, went through them like a piece of cake. On to this year, 7-0. What I think is most impressive is they are outscoring people 255-41. You know what that is? That's 36 points to 5.9. They're giving up 5.9 points a game. Just had another shutout against Wisconsin. I mean, their defense is ridiculous. They have Caleb Downs, who many people say the best player in the nation, but he's definitely one of the best defensive players in the nation. They have Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, two awesome linebackers. Caden McDonald's, an awesome nose tackle, clogging up that defensive line. And you talk about wide receivers. The best wide receiver in the country is Jeremiah Smith, and the best duo is Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Many people say Jeremiah Smith is the best player overall in the country. Carnell Tate is another first-round draft pick. I just think they have too much talent. They can stretch you on offense. They can stretch the defense. Defensively, they're utterly dominant. And until I see somebody beat them, I got to go with the Buckeyes.
Well, Marcus, I will say this. The Buckeyes are a great, great team. And as you know, IU and Ohio State do not play this year. They do not play. So the only two ways they could play this year are either the Big Ten Championship, which is in Indianapolis on December 6th, or in the college football playoffs, or possibly both. But we'll flash up a graphic here in a sec, folks. But here's the comparison between Ohio State and Indiana right now as we sit, with both of them being 7-0. If you look at this, you'll see not only are they both 7-0, IU outscores them, not by much, but they do. But Ohio State gives up several less points per game. So it would be a heck of a game, Marcus. The front seven versus front seven would be a war. And I just think right now I'm going with my Hoosiers.
Hey, listen, I'm rooting for them. I hope Indiana takes it all the way, unless they run into my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and then I'll be rooting against you. Until then, go Hoosiers. Next on Take the Bait, Ben and I are going to do a segment that we'll do every so often called Rapid Fire. Ben and I will get approximately 30 seconds to state our case on a topic. Today's topic: which of these NBA players from the past could play and dominate in today's NBA? The first player on the rapid fire list today is Moses Malone. Ben, how about you go ahead and get us started off?
Big Mo, they called him chairman of the boards for a reason. He's the greatest offensive rebounder of all time. Due to his stats, his size, his strength, and skill, Marcus, he could dominate in today's game. Everybody knows he played in the 70s and 80s, but people forget that he retired not until 1995. In 1990, at 35 years old, he still averaged 19 points and 10 rebounds. And in 1992, at 37, he still averaged 16 points and 9 rebounds. He won 3 MVPs over 2 decades with 2 different teams. And again, he's the greatest offensive rebounder of all time. Yes, he could dominate in today's game.
I think I agree with you on that. I'm going to go with yes on Moses Malone. Not going to lie. I originally said no when you and I talked about this pre-show, but then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, man, this dude is really mobile. He's a lot more mobile than what I suspected. The reason I thought he couldn't at first was because I wasn't sure if he could defend the pick and roll, but he definitely could. He was powerful. He was a great offensive rebounder, so quick off the floor. Just because his name is Moses and he sounds old, he did not move like he was old. This dude could move, he could jump, he could rebound, he was strong. If you think Bam Adebayo is good, he would be a better version of Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo is an all-star, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes on Moses Malone. Our second guy right here, Larry Legend, Larry Bird. Ben, hit us off.
Marcus, this is a no-brainer. Due to Larry Bird's style of play, clutch play, and all-around play in today's rules, he would actually dominate more today than he did back in the day. He's the only player ever to have a career averages of over 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. Just think what he would do today in today's rules. This is a no-brainer, Marcus. He would dominate today and in any era, in my opinion.
I would like to disagree with you, but unfortunately I can't. I think it's a no-brainer on this one as well. Larry Legend, yes, he would dominate. He had such a high release. He was shooting that ball over his head. He could get that shot off back then when guys are using the arm bar, and we talked about that on the last episode with the rules change. With the rule changes, as you said, the great shooter that he was, I don't know how you could stop him from getting the shot off. And such a great shooter like him, he's going to be able to score inside, outside, 6'9", legit 6'10". He's a competitor. That's important. That's a skill these days because nowadays with all this load management, Larry Bird, I just think would out hustle and out compete some guys. His high IQ, he's an outstanding, great passer, underrated defender. I don't know anybody who can compare him to. I would just say, I know if you think Karl Anthony Towns is good with his shooting ability, just wait until what you would have thought what Larry Bird would have done. It would have been unfair. He would have been dominant, not good, dominant in today's game. You and I agree on
Yes.
that one. The next guy, Oscar Robertson, the Big O. What say you, Ben?
I'm a big fan, but I hate to say this, Marcus. I do not think he would dominate today. He'd be good, but he would not dominate. Here's why. He's known really for one main thing. His crowning achievement is that he averaged a triple-double for an entire season, 1962. For 55 years, he was the only player ever to do it. Then all of a sudden, here comes Russell Westbrook, who does it in 2017, and then he did it 3 more times. He did it 4 times. Then Jokic did it last season. So it's been done 5 times the last 9 seasons. To me, that makes his one crowning achievement really diminished. Therefore, I do not think Oscar Robertson would dominate today. He would be good, but he would not, quote unquote, dominate.
I will gladly disagree with you on this. This was one of my dad's favorite players growing up. I learned about him at a very young age. The Big O would dominate. He was the first big guard. He was Magic before Magic. Every big guard like this has pretty much done well in the history of time, whether we're talking about Anthony Hardaway, Magic Johnson, or Oscar Robinson. He had a really good mid-range jump shot. I'm sure had he worked on it, he could have been a better three-point shooter, but his jump shot, his midi was pure. He averaged a triple-double, like you said, and even though you're saying it's diminished, there's still only been 3 guys in the history of the NBA that's done it. And there's been about 5,000 players that have played. So even though Russ did it 3 times and Jokic did it, so did the Big O. I think if you think that Cade Cunningham was a very good player, I think he's Cade Cunningham or better. That's an all-star. I'm going to say yes on Big O. Our next guy, Bill Russell. Big Bill Russell with 11 rings. What do you think about him, Ben?
Again, a big fan of him as well. And again, I think it's similar to Oscar. He would be good, but I do not think he would dominate. He's too short. Okay. He played center barely at 6'9". You know, he played against Wilt Chamberlain 94 times. They played against each other 94 times. Wilt's stats against Russell, 30 points a game to Russell's 14, and Wilt averaged 28 rebounds against him. So what would Shaq do? What would Hakeem do? What would Kareem do? Moses Malone do? And Jokic even do? Jokic is a triple-double machine. So no, I do not think Bill Russell would dominate. He's just too short to play center in today's game. He's barely 6'9".
No, I do not think he would dominate, but I do still think he would be first team on defense. I think he's a lot more athletic than what people give him credit for. Have you seen that clip where he goes coast to coast and he takes off 1 step inside of the free throw line and literally jumps over a man? I don't think people realize how athletic he was at 6'9". He probably would be defending more power forwards in today's game. I just like his athletic ability, his defensive prowess, his leadership. You're right. He wasn't a great scorer. So because of that, I'll say he wouldn't dominate, but he still would be a very, very good player and probably first team all defensive team in my book. Our last guy on rapid fire is Kevin McHale. Start us off, Ben.
You know, I'm a big Kevin McHale fan, and I think his footwork was phenomenal. But I think in today's game, playing at the 4, he would be too slow. He'd have to guard players like Giannis, Siakam, Mobley, Zion, and even possibly on switches, KD. He's just too slow to guard those guys in today's game. So no, Kevin McHale would not dominate in today's game due to his lack of speed and lack of quickness.
I'm going to agree with you and say no on that as well. Not because of all your same reasons, but in part because I don't even think he dominated back then. His career averages are 18 and 7. He was a really, really good player. But dominant, I'm not sure. Now, let's not get it twisted. His nickname was the Torture Chamber. It was the Torture Chamber. That's one of the best nicknames in the history of the game because of his footwork. He would put you in the mix. There was about a 5-year stretch between 85 and 90 where he averaged over 20. Then he averaged 21, 26, 22, 22, and then again 21. But other than that, he never even averaged over 20. He was just a very, very good player on a very good team. So like you said, he would be good. He might have some trouble defending. I think he would have figured it out. But no, I don't think he would be dominant. Next, and our last topic on today's episode of Take the Bait, we have a very good question here that I have some experience with, and we have a special guest on here to help us talk about this topic. Why has there been such a rise in the international player success in America? For example, the last seven MVPs in the NBA have been international. The last American MVP was 2018 with James Harden. 2019 and 20, you had Giannis from Greece. 2021, 22, you had Jokic from Serbia. 23, there was Embiid from Cameroon. 24, Jokic again from Serbia. And last year, 2025, was Shea Gilchrist-Alexander. To help us tackle this question, we have current UE assistant coach Craig Snow, who has extensive international experience recruiting and coaching players. To go back to his time in New Mexico, he coached a guy named Hugh Greenwood, who was all-world U17s from Tasmania. Cam Bairstow, who was a second-round draft pick from Australia. And here at University of Evansville, he's done a great job of recruiting with Guy Tesh from Brazil, Josh Hughes from Australia, Kaya Bears from New Zealand, Gabe Pizzato, who's now at Xavier, who had a great year last year at UE from Italy, James Dyson from Australia, and Leif Moeller from Germany. I'll let you go ahead and get this started off, Craig, because you're our special guest and you've had a lot of experience do this. Why do you think there's been such a rise in the success of international players in American basketball?
I think first of all, Joy, great to see you guys. Especially seeing that Aces shirt on is fantastic. But I think it's really kind of like a really in-depth, detailed question that I may not be the most educated person to talk about, but in terms of like my experience and definitely like in our lifetime, things that have happened that have allowed the international game to not only to grow and expand, but for us to become more aware of it. Because my take would actually be that the talent separation hasn't always been as great as what we might perceive it to be. I think there's probably a little more awareness now, and I think our generation kind of witnessed the peak of American basketball, quote unquote, superiority with the Dream Team in the 90s, which also kind of awakened and showed the American players to the international world, in terms of you think about how hard it was for us to watch games in the 90s, on TV. Sometimes there were tape delay, but you take a group of guys like the Dream Team and showed their superiority, won, convincingly in every match, in every game. But prior to that, you had some great players in Europe that may have had some limitations on ability to even get to the United States, whether it was like Sabonis, before the fall of the Soviet Union, like he didn't get to the U.S. to play in the NBA until I think he was in his early 30s. Like, what would he have looked like had he played in the NBA at 24, 25? You had a couple generations of both the Soviet team and like I think probably the early 80s, mid 80s, and you had the Yugoslavian team that was broken up, that had won the world championships with Divac and Petrovic and Kukoc and Dino Raja, guys that eventually had really good careers in the NBA. So you had all of that, and then you get to the modern era where there's internet, the transfer of information is immediate. You can watch these games, stream them online. There's a lot more familiarity, and you've had that kind of grow into centralized development in a lot of these countries where maybe they were emerging in the 90s and now they're much more in tune, whether that's INSEP in France or the COE and now the NBA academies that are all over the place. And you currently now have NIL, name, image, likeness. So you have international players that can go to the United States and get paid to play at least as much as they were in maybe a developmental role. They get to travel with guys their own age. So, I absolutely think like the international game has improved. I don't think anyone could argue against that. I'm not so sure that the gap was ever as great as we thought it was outside of that peak, like early 90s generation of American players.
I think you make some good points right there. I think 1992 was probably one of the top eras of basketball. Jordan and Magic, all those guys came together. We did win there. And you and I were talking about this before the show. Just 10 years later, we weren't even winning again. With that group with LeBron and Carmelo Anthony was losing just 10 years later. I think that there's a few things. There's not just one reason why. The first one I'll start off with is the development system. Over here in America right now, our kids play a ton of games. Our kids get numb to losing. Over there, you play about one game a week. You practice and you hone your skills. When you practice over there, I played over there for 12 years. The guys all practice together. The guards, the bigs, from the time they're little all the way up to when they're teenagers and when they're getting ready to go pro. Here in America, if you're tall when you're young, they're sending you on down on that end with the bigs and teaching you post moves, and they're putting the small guys down here, and the bigs just don't get the same development. In Europe, their development system, I think, is better. That's why you see so many talented and skilled bigs able to handle and pass because they're all training like and with guards. I think just overall, they develop more, they work on the skills more, whereas we're just out there playing games and sometimes compounding bad habits. The other thing, I want to agree with you, the talent identification. YouTube. I mean, I was just watching this clip the other day in 1995 where David Letterman was laughing at Bill Gates about the ability to be able to watch a baseball game again on air. And he was like, why wouldn't you just listen to the tape recorder? Now, everybody across the world is watching YouTube. They're able to watch some of their best players, steal their moves, go practice them, watch Drew Hanlon online, watch all these trainers online. I just think the exposure of basketball. I mean, even guys like myself, I'm nobody, and in the last few years, I've been able to go identify John Bowe, who's a McDonald's All-American and an NBA prospect, a top 100 player right now, and Simon Guy, and another top 150 player, and following in Bengay, and I've just recruited them myself. Nevertheless, the reach of the NBA and some of these other places. So I just think that the reach and the development system has really expanded and that they do it better over there.
What's your take on like developing players, one like individual talent versus how that fits within a team concept? So like, you can see a lot of skills training go on where like, yeah, absolutely it's important to become better at your individual skills, but also like developing those skills within a team structure and like knowing how to play versus knowing how to play for a group within knowing how to play to get your own,
Yeah.
like in terms of like development.
No, again, I think when all the guys are playing together and getting developed together, everybody on the court can pass and shoot and dribble. And I think they teach concepts better. At our youth over here, they teach plays. You go over here, block, screen, move here, there. Now, I know some coaches are teaching the motion offense and read and react, but a lot at the younger age, they're telling you what to do, not necessarily why to do it. I think in Europe, they're telling you why, they're teaching you the concepts. And then when you have five guys out there who can dribble, pass, shoot, and they understand the game, the ball moves around. Also, don't discredit the influence of soccer there. They all grew up watching soccer and the ticky-tack and how the ball moves, and they love seeing ball movement, right? Whereas here, guys are going to dribble around cones for dribble the air out of the ball like you get points for dribbling, and I just think that they do a much better job of teaching the team concept and then adding people and players in there that are skilled enough to understand the concept and implement it in a team concept.
What I got a question too. Like, what would you say? We're experiencing this. You have international players come over. There's always a learning curve. One thing that's been interesting is the transfer from a 24 to a 30-second shot clock. Like youth age playing with the shot clock to where it's less maybe like quote unquote controlled. It's more about getting the actions and just the European style. So like this past Olympics in France was maybe one of the more enjoyable times I've watched our current generation of American players play. Just a 40-minute game. It's shorter than the 48. So like you don't have any time to like feel yourself into the game. You have to get right to it. And just the physicality, less like defensive restriction. You've got the goaltending rule, the shorter three-point line. Thoughts on that, like the trapezoid lane, just different things that might that the game style and how that impacts like American players.
Well, I think all of that plays a part into it. The part of the reason that the NBA changed the rules was to allow more Europeans to come over here and have success. The game was just getting way too physical in the 90s. I think if we were still calling the game the way we were back in the 90s, guys like Luka Doncic and some of these Europeans that have come over here in the last few years would not have had the success that they've had. The NBA was really smart. They wanted the game to go global. The only way that they could do that was to allow Europeans to be able to come over here and have success. So they changed the rules. Also, having a shorter game, you can go harder for a short amount of time. I think the Americans are generally more athletic, and the longer that the game goes, that the athleticism and talent will play out and will win. But in the shorter game, even though it's only 8 minutes shorter, I do think that it helps the Europeans when they play, and it's oftentimes it's a more visually pleasing style of play, especially if you like teamwork. I personally don't like all the dribbling, which I think the last point that I would like to make on why I think the rise, some of the success has been I just think that it's less egos and less parental involvement. I think this might be the most important reason. I coach these kids all the time. Currently on my team, I have 11 players. Eight, count them up, are international from all over the world, Europe, Africa, wherever. And they are just a pleasure to coach. I mean, there's not that much entitlement. They allow you to coach them. I think that, American kids, you got parents who are always meddling. If things aren't going right, let's transfer. I'm not saying anything is wrong against the transfer report. I'm all for it. But kids don't go through the adversity, at least on court adversity, as much here, and they get up and run. Whereas in Europe, there aren't as many clubs to run to. You're with the club that you're with. There's an old saying that says, "Prepare your child for the road. Don't prepare the road for your child." And I think here, a lot of parents try to prepare the road for their child, try to remove every obstacle. Oh, coach, if you don't let my kid shoot 20 times, we're going to run over here. And then this coach is going to have to deal with this entitled, snotty-nosed kid who wants to shoot 20 times. And then when he gets to college, as you know, you probably have a junior or senior who's already your leading scorer. And now a freshman wants to come in and dribble 8,000 times and shoot. He sits the bench, gets frustrated, he transfers, now has to start all over. And it's just a cyclical effect. So I think that the less ego in the players and less parental involvement also has something to do with it, along with what you just mentioned about the flow of the game, the rule change, and the shortening of the game.
Yeah, I mean, don't want to comment too much on parental involvement here, but I do think like the one of the challenging parts of recruiting internationally is making sure that it's a good cultural fit within a program. So like a lot of it is the skill part is kind of the easier part of the evaluation in regards to like what they can do on the court. It's more of like how will they fit within our culture as a team, within our university, within our school. And that's where a lot of the work comes in, is in, developing those relationships so you can have honest relationships about what it's all about, what their goals are, both short and long term, and then how that fits into our team concept. So, I mean, we've been fortunate, the guys we've had here for sure. One, like Rags is really open to international players. He's had success with them in previous years, and I have a good background in recruiting them and coaching them as well. So like it's kind of worked out really well where a lot of the guys that we've had, I mean, I speak to all of them, have been really good fits for our program, whether the on the court stuff has been, varying degrees of impact, but the culture within the team has been unbelievably smooth. And I think that's something that we have to spend a lot of time on for sure.
I think you're being humble when you say this because obviously you coach Cam Bairstow was an NBA player. Josh Hughes is a starter for UE. Just speaking about UE right now, Josh Hughes is a starter. Kaya Bears played significant minutes last year, who I assume is going to be competing for a starting position. Gabe Posada was one of the best players in the conference last year, who's now transferred to Xavier, making good money. James Dyson, I've heard good things about him from Australia. And Leif Moeller, everybody's really excited to see him this year. So with that said, speaking of this year's team, Craig, do you mind giving us a few minutes about some of the expectations and what have you been seeing in the preseason and what can we as fans look forward to see in UE basketball this year?
I think for us, just like taking that next step forward competitively within our conference. I think we've got depth that we probably haven't had, going into our fourth year now. So, which is crazy how fast stuff goes. I feel like a senior. I've been here for 4 years now, so just kind of knowing what to expect within our league. Knowing how good our conference is, but like having the depth and the age, we're definitely older, more experienced than what we've been, and probably can go a little deeper into our lineup than what we have in years past. And I think we're set up to, with returning our starting front court, adding the pieces that we have around that, and including addressing some of our perimeter shooting, different things. Like I feel really good that this is a group that, when we get to January, February into the conference tournament, can be playing meaningful basketball. And I think it's going to be a process to get there. With older guys, there's a lot of miles on some of them. So like, where we are today is definitely not indicative of where we're going to be throughout the season, because it's no good it's not great to be your best November 1 or October 20th. Like we need to be peaking at the right time. So feel really positive about it. Tough group, been really competitive. One thing I'll say is they haven't had a day that was you walk out of the gym and you're like, man, we didn't really get better in a couple areas today. Like every day they've been really intentional and focused. So I'm pretty excited about what we have ahead.
Ben, I'm gonna let you close this off, but I will tell you this, Craig.
Sure.
I know you don't want to be peaking too early, but you better be doing something early because you got preseason #1 Purdue starting off this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough one for anybody across the country to take on. And so I think Aces fans are looking forward to seeing that challenge. Ben, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. And Coach, thanks again for coming on Take Debate. Appreciate your time today and really, really learned a lot on numerous topics. Do you think that international players have simply just gotten better over the last 20 to 30 years? You know, Marcus mentioned the last few MVPs, but that's in addition to players like Luka and Wemby and all these other greats. Have they just gotten better from a skill set and from the evolution of basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be hard to like argue against that or like to take an opposing view in terms of like, especially individual in the growth. I mean, you look at it like a person could make an argument that the top 5 individual players in NBA today are Shea, Jokic,
Yeah.
Giannis, Wembyana, and Luka. Like you could make and not be like, well, wow, you're crazy. You compare them with like when we grew up with Magic, Bird, Jordan, Isaiah, and then we could go down the list. You could go down the list where like the top players were clearly from the US at the time, at least that we were aware of. So like I don't think there's any doubt that the international players have gotten better, have made huge impacts on NBA. And then to me, the college game is as talented as it's ever been. You look at a lot of the players that have now transitioned to NCAA basketball. The depth of talent is remarkable, and teams are really taking advantage of the international game through, the NIL and different things that allow the pathways here. So, like in my opinion, last year's NCAA tournament was as talented as any that we've seen, and I think it's only going to continue to get better, and that's good for the overall game of basketball and good for international players as well, and it's good for the American game, just in terms of like the sport of basketball. So I absolutely think there's been, a lot of improvement throughout the last, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, you're right. I think the college basketball is loaded right now. Guys who would have stayed in Europe are now coming over here to get paid. Guys who would have rushed off to go play in the NBA early are staying because they can get paid. So more and more talent is staying in college basketball, and I think it's an awesome thing. Craig, thank you so much for your time. Man, we're looking forward to seeing what the Aces put out there on the court this year. I know you guys have been working hard in the preseason. You're a great coach, great recruiter, great friend, man. Thank you for spending time with us on Take Debate.
All right, fellas. We'll see you guys.
All right, man.
Thanks, Coach.
Well, there you have it. Episode 2 of Take Debate, where we had some really good topics. We had a special guest right here with Craig Snow, UE assistant. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? We're just getting started. We're just getting started. Thank you for all your support. We have several of our short videos that have already reached over 1,000 views. We have over 100 followers on our Facebook page. As we said, please like, follow, comment, share. We're on every social media platform: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X/Twitter. All you have to do is search Take Debate Show. You'll find us. You know where else you'll find us? You'll find us right here next Wednesday. What do you think, Ben?
Take Debate. We want to hear from you.
All right, we're out.
Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait. Take the bait.
Get off your phone and get in the zone. Put down the sticks, leave the studio alone. I got my squad with me and we ready. If you got your squad with you, get ready. Take the bait. Take the